Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. This is a review of Lufthansa's first class on their 747-8. We'll show you the first class terminal, including bubble baths, all-you-can-eat food, sitting in front of the pilots in the nose of the plane, and fine dining and fine wine at 40,000 feet. Come join us. We started our morning off on New Year's Eve walking to the first class terminal. We stayed overnight after we landed yesterday and from San Francisco, and it's about a 5-minute walk kind of next door to the main terminal. We actually scouted it out the day prior, and it was probably the best decision just to make sure we knew where we were going. This is about 6 hours prior to our scheduled departure to Mexico City. Upon arrival upstairs, we were quickly greeted by a Lufthansa agent who took our passports and got us our boarding passes and through passport control while my dad and I went and found a seat. We were quickly approached by the bartender who suggested some orange juice since it was about 7 in the morning. There is quite an amount of ample seating across a couple rooms, but after about an hour, we elected to go grab a bite to eat at the a la carte restaurant. They have options on the menu, but you really could order whatever you desired. You can see here I went with the omelet and my dad with some scrambled eggs. There's also a menu throughout the different seating areas where really it contains anything you can think of, from cocktails to mocktails. You could do whiskey tastings, create your own cocktail. There was really no limit. My dad and I kind of elected to stick to the rosé champagne since it was quite early still. Our bodies were still on San Francisco time. With breakfast and our first drink out of the way, I elected to go take a bubble bath with my new duck companion. These are on demand, and you kind of have to get in line. There is only one bubble bath option. The rest are showers, so I actually waited about 2 hours in order to get my chance at taking a bubble bath. The bathroom really had everything you could need, from a robe to slippers, a razor, deodorant, toothbrush, bubbles, a bathroom, really anything. Shortly after I was finished with my bubble bath, we were told it was time to board our plane. We were escorted downstairs, given back our passports, and got into our Porsche Cayenne and began our journey to the gate. My dad and I were doing this journey together, so it was just us in our Porsche. If you do have bigger parties, you will likely be put in a minivan. I've also seen a couple reviews where individuals will just have to get the minivan based on what's available. It is truly uncomparable to drive through the airport in your private Porsche up to your first class plane. That part still has not sunk in with me yet of how cool that experience is. Especially because we landed yesterday and took a bus along these same roads to get from our flight inbound to the terminal. It's a whole different experience. My dad and I were trying to find an opportunity to take this flight for a few months by the time we actually were able to book it. I'll tell you a little bit at the end of the video how we actually went about booking it and what kind of costs are associated with it. But driving up against some of these other 747s, this one being a 400 type, it's just unbelievable. After a short drive, we finally pulled up to the bird taking us all the way to Mexico City. My seat, 1 Alpha, with my dad's 1 Kilo just across the way. We had a little private cabin here in the front. It was especially quiet just from how far away from the engines we were. Shortly after sitting down, we were served a pre-departure champagne with warmed macadamia nuts. And just like that, we were pushed back from the gate on our way to Mexico City. We were also provided a wine and food menu, which were very extensive, as well as an amenity kit. First-class passengers are offered free Wi-Fi throughout the duration of the flight. After no time at all, we were second in line for departure. This cargo plane in front of us actually was going to Mexico City as well, but to their cargo hub, and would be trailing us the entire length of the flight. One thing that's unique about sitting in the front is that you'll feel so far off the line because you're ahead of the front nose gear. It'll almost be like you're off of the runway or off of the taxiway by the time they turn. Just shows you how big this plane really is. Another thing that's much different is each seat has 4 windows to themselves, and between my 4 on my side and my dad's, the amount of light coming in is just at such a different level, even in other business class or first class cabins. Like I mentioned, first-class passengers received Wi-Fi for free on the entire length of the flight. I've seen some reviews that showed pretty low download speed. Meal service began after we made our way above the United Kingdom. We were about an hour and 15 minutes into the flight by this point. Shortly after takeoff, we were offered a glass of wine and water, a hot towel, and the meal service began. Here's a look at Lufthansa's menu. There actually is a specific website where you put in your class, your route, and your date, and the menu changes throughout. So since this was on New Year's Eve, this was the last day that this menu was in place. Everything shown here was available for us. I know on a few other reviews, some of the items may not have been available, especially when doing the inbound routes from Mexico or SF to Frankfurt, which is why we started in Frankfurt. As we passed over the United Kingdom, an amuse-bouche was served. This was a pumpkin and gel with pumpkin seeds. It was very delicious, accompanied with our wine choice. The table was then set, white tablecloths, choice of bread with little salt shakers. As you can see here, it was quite bumpy. Our first appetizer was caviar. Now, I'm not a fan of having to put together my caviar with fork and knife. That is a very first world problem. As you can see here, it was still delicious. I made it work, but a mother of pearl spoon would have been a nice touch. Next up, we had our appetizer, lobster ceviche, a goat cheese and fig, and pigeon. While the lobster and goat cheese were excellent, the pigeon was a bit gamey, and it was the first time I had it, but I did try it, wasn't as big of a fan. Next up was the soup and salad. I elected just to go for the soup because of how much food were to come. Then our main course was up. This is the veal tenderloin that I selected while we were on the ground just before pushback. It was excellent. My dad and I passed on dessert, and I decided to take a trip back to the bathroom and change into the provided pajamas and slippers. This bathroom is about 2 times the size of a standard lavatory and had a view. Any of the traditional amenities that you need on a flight like this were provided. I then decided to take a nap and try out the incredible bed. The flight attendant made my bed down, and I got about 3 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Now, if there's 2 things that I think can improve, it was the in-flight entertainment as well as how often the crew checks in on you. After the phenomenal meal service, I think there was a time for about 3 hours where they didn't come by to ask us for water or anything. If they just came by once or twice during that window, it would have been perfect. For the in-flight entertainment, it's very outdated, there's not a ton of options, and it is hard to navigate. So I'm glad I brought my own stuff to watch. With about 2 hours to landing, a dinner service was brought on. I got sliders and my dad got a cheese plate along with some dessert and dessert wine. We also got some port off the menu, which was excellent. The captain then shortly came on and welcomed us a Happy New Year in Germany, to which my watch also congratulated me. It was pretty cool to be on a flight like this, changing the new year, but the cabin crew came through with glasses of champagne for everyone, and it was quite exciting. At this point, we only had about an hour left in our flight, making our way through Mexico, a country that I've personally actually never visited. So I was pretty excited to see what Mexico City had to offer. One of my favorite things on this aircraft is the cameras on the front and bottom of the plane, especially during taxi, takeoff, landing. It was definitely a unique experience that I haven't had before on any other plane. As you can see here, the remote controls for the seat, it's ever adjustable, plus the remote here for the in-flight entertainment. Once again, I was utilizing the free Wi-Fi to kind of see where we were, as well as where that cargo plane was that was taxiing in front of us back in Frankfurt. They were just slightly off screen to the right here behind us. But you can see there's all those other planes kind of in line that we were following as we approached Mexico City. We were closing in on the runway, and I could not get enough of this front camera view as we saw the runway lights.
Dear passengers, it has been a pleasure taking care of you today. We hope that you could find some sleep, some rest, and that you enjoyed your stay with us on this rather special flight, and we're looking forward to welcome you soon on any of our other flights. Dear passengers, thank you, goodbye, have a good start into the new year, and see you soon.
After landing, we had a short taxi to our gate, along with this gorgeous sunset. My dad and I were actually staying at the airport at the Hilton, and this was our view out of our room. Now, you're probably wondering, how did we book such an amazing experience? So I utilize Seats.aero, which has a free Lufthansa first class search tool, as you can see here, and it will tell you how many seats and for how many miles between Aeroplan and United it costs on what dates. So we were checking this constantly. My dad and I eventually found Mexico City as our final destination, and we paid 132,000 United miles each one way, and then eventually went to Lufthansa to pick our seats. So I was constantly checking the Lufthansa website as well to see what seats were available to make sure we could get 1A and 1K. But that's how we ended up booking it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.